We have multiple major updates revolving around the Phoenix Suns as following the Kevin Durant trade, there are new moves in place for this Phoenix Suns team as their next move has been revealed. We're going to be breaking down what they plan to do with some of the contracts on this roster, potentially waiving some of them, potentially bringing some of them back, and who else they're going to be exploring on the trade market here as we gear up for the offseason to kick off and start getting underway with the Suns now having the 10th overall pick in the draft as well. There will be a lot of news revolving around this team, and we're going to be breaking that all down here on this episode of Suns Digest. I am Bruce Veliz, and you guys have been absolutely fantastic, showing your love and support on the channel, which I really do appreciate over these last couple of days. Like I said, we're going to be having a bunch of content revolving around the Suns this offseason here coming to you guys in the next couple of days and weeks. So if you do enjoy the content, I want to make sure you stay up to date on everything. Make sure to continue to hit that like button and make sure you are subscribed to the channel so you don't miss a single beat. We will not be going live this Thursday, but we'll be going live next week, but we will have you all the coverage revolving around the draft here as well, and anything that happens with the Phoenix Suns. So without further ado, let's dive in and let's explore some updates on the Phoenix Suns. As what else is coming into play for this team? Well, there is a lot to look at and break down to from today as we got an update from Michael A. Scotto, courtesy of Hoops Hype, regarding the Phoenix Suns and then their plays for this next couple of weeks. Now, we do know that with doing the Kevin Durant trade, this Suns team is still in the second apron and is still trying to shed some salary and, lose out on some of these contracts. So with this update from Michael A. Scotto, we can see multiple things here for the Phoenix Suns. The first thing is that there still is the possibility of Phoenix expanding this Durant trade remains since the deal cannot become official until July 6th, Hoop Hype has learned. And that means that players in this team could be moved to another in a smaller other deal, once again being combined into this deal, like a guy like Jalen Green. I don't think they'd move Dylan Brooks. Obviously, they're saying they're keeping Jalen Green, but maybe even a guy like Cody Martin, Vasily Micic, Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, Nick Richards. One of those guys could be thrown in for the Phoenix Suns here in these next couple of days leading up to July 6th. To potentially make this deal a little bit bigger and for the Suns to get more in return. That is something to keep an eye on with the Phoenix Suns as we do await these next couple of days leading up to the draft. We also had some stuff going into what's next for the Suns after trading for Durant. As we all know, they got off of Kevin Durant yesterday. They brought in Dylan Brooks, Jalen Green, their 10th overall pick, and 5 second rounders. But we do know that the Suns did gauge on the trade market his value around the league in Jalen Green in case they did try to flip him again via trade. But as John Gambadoro reported on Sunday, the Suns are keeping Jalen Green and he is going to be staying here. What that says to me was something that Brendan Clean said over on Locked On Suns a little bit on the show, or he said it on Twitter. I don't know where he said it, but he did say that basically this means Suns basically tried to trade him and basically couldn't find a contract to do so, and that would make sense. Obviously, Jalen Green probably doesn't have the biggest market out there, but Jordan Ott has said that he does feel confident that he can run with this guy, and I do think that that would make sense for this Phoenix Suns squad. Looking back to the team in Cleveland we saw where he just coached with Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, having the Suns have a similar backcourt and a guy in Devin Booker and also a guy in Jalen Green could also kind of resemble that type of play style and that kind of two-guard lineup that could also be very successful, that Jordan Ott has some familiarity that he did run with. Definitely interesting to see with Jalen Green obviously coming back, as many Suns fans wanted an additional something else, kind of similar to myself, wanted a Jabari Smith, wanted a Tari Eason, Cam Whitmore, Reed Shepherd, one of those additional pieces. Unfortunately, the Suns weren't able to secure that in this deal, but with Jalen Green coming back, I don't think it's as bad as a negative as some Suns fans are making it out to be. There's always the possibility of him being moved on in the future as well within this Suns roster. The Suns were also aggressively targeting centers, as we do know, as that is the main piece that they want to upgrade this offseason. And in the Durant trade talks, they tried to get guys like Rudy Gobert, Jakob Poeltl, and Kel'el Ware, and could continue to look to upgrade at this position because they failed to get one of these centers. Now, they could have gotten Rudy Gobert with the Timberwolves, but we all know Kevin Durant did not want to go there. They could have gotten a guy in Jakob Poeltl potentially, but I know that the Raptors were reluctant to include him in deals, and Kel'el Ware was also reluctant to be included in deals by the Miami Heat, and that was reported by John Gambadoro. Therefore, the Suns are still looking to address this position of the big man out here in the market. But that being said, speaking about bigs, one of the bigs on their roster, Nick Richards, who has a $5 million non-guaranteed salary for the 2025-2026 season, is expected to have his salary guaranteed by the Suns going into next year. Now, Richards obviously is more of a backup big for the Suns, but like we've kind of prefaced here on the channel, making it around 200 or making at $5 million and on a second apron team, he is on a very solid contract for the role he can play as a backup center, and it would be very, very foolish for the Phoenix Suns to not bring back a guy who can replicate some solid lob potential, being an interior defender at a cheap price, only playing 15 to 20 minutes per game. Last year, he started in 34 to the 36 games for the Suns and averaged 9.5 points on 61% shooting from the field with 8.6 rebounds in just 22 minutes per game. I do think if those numbers are dropped down a little bit, like I said, roughly right around 18 to 20 minutes, taking a little bit of a bump out of Nick Richards' time here, I do think we will see his efficiency be up and him be even more impactful for the Phoenix Suns as a rebounder and rim protector, which could be very key for the Suns when they do address getting another big man in here. Now, will they do that via another trade? We'll have to keep an eye out, but I'll keep an eye out for the Suns moving from Veliz Micic and Cody Martin as they still try to aim to get below the second apron. We've mentioned this before as well, but Martin and Micic are both on non-guaranteed and team options. It has been reported that Phoenix is expected to decline the option on Veliz Micic, barring a trade that would necessitate his salary being included. The two-time EuroLeague champion and former EuroLeague MVP is expected to command significantly lucrative offers overseas, so it's not likely for a team to be willing to trade for a guy in Veliz Micic. Therefore, it does seem like the Suns will waive his team option. Now, his restriction is on the 28th or 29th, so it will be it'll be key to see when the Suns do waive a guy in Veliz Micic over these next couple of days. Will it be before the draft? Will it be before? Obviously, it will be before this trade with Kevin Durant can go through, so that will be a little bit in some salary savings when bringing back these contracts in Brooks and Green. But definitely something to keep an eye out on there. Also with Cody Martin, he is another one who is non-guaranteed and is in a similar boat as Veliz Micic. He is a candidate to be waived under the salary, obviously, because he would, unless he is included in a trade. We do know that they traded for Micic and Martin for Nurkic last season for this very reason, to have two contracts to shed so they could drop underneath the first apron and basically not have to have the pill of swallowing having Nurkic in the locker room last season and then now having to be traded this offseason as well with other pieces. Now they can kind of just waive these guys and kind of get underneath it now. Gerald Bourguet did say on PHNX this afternoon on Monday, as I was recording, saying that the Suns do like Cody Martin. So obviously he could be potentially back and that they like him a little bit more than Veliz Micic. And I think that there's a possibility that even if they do waive his non-guaranteed contract, that he could potentially be back with the Phoenix Suns on a cheaper deal, or the Phoenix Suns could also find a avenue for him to be involved in the trade. Now, once again, that's where we kind of get back to here, where we discussed with Michael Scotto that the Suns could possibly expand on this deal, and that's where contracts like Veliz Micic or Cody Martin, if they are able to kind of move off of them, if a team is willing to take them on and they can find a deal to do so, it could make sense for the Suns. And then two other players, once again, to keep an eye on are Royce O'Neal and Grayson Allen, as Phoenix has gauged the trade market on both of these contracts. We do know that, obviously, once again, trying to shed some money, trying to save some money with getting Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks back, alongside the 10th overall pick. It does guarantee that the Suns will have, three guys under roster and two more roster spots filled with KD, and having some of these young, having more additional draft picks, it does seem like the Suns will get a little bit younger and look to add some more rookies to this lineup with Ryan Dunn and Oso Ighodaro, and that's where contracts like Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal could kind of come into play. They could either be flipped for an additional first, maybe even multiple seconds for the Suns to use to trade up and get more draft capital or to move up in the draft, or they could be used to bring in another swing piece that fills in a role. Allen averaged 10.6 per game on 42% 6 from three-point range in 64 games. He is owed $35 million over the next two seasons and has a $19.38 million player option for the last year. Royce O'Neal obviously averaged 9.1 points, shot 40.6% from three-point range in 75 games for Phoenix, and is owed $32.63 million over the next three seasons. Allen is around a little over $16 million this year. Royce O'Neal a little over 10, so trying to find some contracts that can kind of fit in for those deals. They are out there on the market. It just all depends if a team is willing to take on a contract like Grayson or Royce, right? Obviously, they do have some value out there on the market, but not the peak value that they really should have. And if the Suns feel like that they're not getting an upgrade at a position that they need by getting off of a contract like this, or feel like they're losing the trade, then they won't do the trade and they'll just keep said role player and try to figure out another way how to really address these changes, regardless if it's in the draft, free agency as well. Now, we didn't go into Bradley Beal here in this episode. We talked about Bradley Beal in yesterday's video, where John Gambadoro gave us a little bit of insight of how the Suns are wanting to get out of his contract. I will say there are a little bit of updates regarding Beal, as John Gambadoro and Flex did say this both today and yesterday, that there are some teams that potentially could trade for Bradley Beal, and we'll have to see what that means for the Phoenix Suns, as I do believe that is the next point of attack here, is obviously trying to address the draft, which comes in 2 days, figuring out if they're going to move up, move down, using some of those other pieces like a Royce O'Neal, Grayson Allen, a Cody Martin, to potentially move up or down in the draft, or maybe even insert into the Kevin Durant deal to make it a little bit easier. And then we'll have to wait and see what they ultimately do with Bradley Beal, the rest of the roster, and going into free agency. But like I said, there's going to be a lot of content regarding this Suns team, so if you want to stay up to date on everything, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section, and I'll catch you guys once again tomorrow and Wednesday as we really gear up for this Phoenix Suns team and diving into a bunch of fun stuff regarding this offseason. So once again, thank you guys so much for tuning into today's episode. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your day, and go Phoenix Suns. Peace out, everyone.